Wow.
Great, thanks a lot, Ms. Molly.
Okay, welcome.
Great. So should we start, Darina?
Yes, I will keep an eye for Mr. Mamadou.
Oh.
And why don't we go ahead?
Okay, great. Is he? Okay, great. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. It's great to see a lot of new faces and old faces, and also feel free to turn on your camera. And welcome to our GAFSP Global Agriculture and Food Security Programs COP28 webinar series. Building resilient food systems through climate actions, nutrition security, and closing the gender gap. So as you know, climate change, gender equality, and malnutrition are three of the greatest challenges facing the Sustainable Development Objectives. They are interconnected through every food system. Climate change, as you know, that directly impacts food availability, accessibility, affordability, and also their genetic diversity and quality worldwide. So they're affecting, the food production livelihoods, particularly among the most vulnerable people, like women. So as such, the goal of the webinar series is really to showcase the work supported by the GAFSP on the ground in different regions, the pathways through which, integrated actions for climate, gender, and nutrition that can really result in some positive outcomes to address the multiple priorities on the ground. So this is to both our internal and external audience, our supervising entity, our donors, partner organizations who are attending COP28. As you know, 2 weeks ago, we were in Asia, and you heard the field story from the Lao Republic 2 weeks ago. Today, we would like to bring you to West Africa for GAFSP finance projects in Gambia on how this project has really responded to these three challenges with integrated actions. The Gambia Agriculture and Food Security Project has received 2 grants from GAFSP's call for proposal. One is under the 2019 special FCV special call, and also more recently 12 million from the food crisis response call this year. It is a project that's supervised by our partner, African Development Bank, but on the ground is really delivered collaboratively with the World Food Program. It is also, it's a project, had started in a fragile country context and has been really through various crises recently. It will be great, to learn from the experience in this challenging context. So today's event that, we have 3 sections. The first will be the presentation. After the presentation, we will have a discussion session with 3 distinguished panelists from our other supervising entities, World Food Program, World Bank, to give us further insights from their respective areas. In the last session of today, we will also have 15 minutes of Q&A. But if you have any other questions, you can feel free to type it in the chat box. And my colleagues, Darina should monitor the chat that will find opportunities to answer them. First, let me introduce today's presenter, Mr. Mamadou Sow. He is the project director of the Gambia project. he has been working on donor-funded projects in the agri and agriculture and agri-food system for over almost 20 years. And prior to taking over the Gambia GAFSP finance project, he served as the head of the monitoring evaluation of the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Mamadou, you have the floor is yours. Do you have your? You can now show your presentation. Share your presentation on the screen. Welcome, Mamadou and our panelists, and also everyone who are attending. Thank you very much for your time. Mamadou, the floor is yours. Hello, are you speaking, Mamadou? We can't. Please turn on your camera as well, and you can feel free to share the your PowerPoints.
Hi, Mamadou. If you're trying to speak, you're on mute. We cannot hear you yet. I see you're in the meeting room, but if you could kindly please unmute yourself.
And also, do you have the presentation? That maybe both Arena have the old version can be also shown the screen for Mamadou you to speak about.
Yes, I can go ahead and cue the PowerPoint, but
Shaja?
Yes.
Oh, just calling Mamadou. He has some issue connecting, so he's changing the place where he is.
Okay, no problem. I think while we're waiting for Mamadou to adjust some connection issues, it always happen, right? Like we would like to show you more like the field stories, but virtually. But sometimes connection has been still challenging sometimes. Don't worry, take your time. So I mean, I just maybe take the advantage of the time. Maybe also to introduce our panelists that will come later, and feel free to turn on your cameras. So first of all, we have Mr. Malik Diaya. He is the Deputy Country Director of the World Food Program in Gambia. Mr. Diaya has more than a decade of experience, in humanitarian projects experience with World Food Program in DRC, Chad, Senegal, Nigeria, in the Western African areas. He has also worked a lot in the international NGOs and research institutes. I think, WFP is very important in this project is that it has leveraged its technical expertise on nutrition and played a key role in the implementation partner for this project. So later, Mr. Diaya will provide more insights from the nutrition perspective. And then now let's also welcome our World Bank colleagues, Jonas and Patricia van der Belt. Jonas is a senior agriculture specialist in the World Bank Climate Smart Agriculture team. And his work, focused on building climate resilience, adaptation, and he has mostly recently, led our agriculture and the global food practices effort on Paris alignment. And then, lastly, not the least, Ms. Patricia is a gender lead for the food and agriculture practice at the World Bank since 2017. She has worked in the agriculture global practice for 13 years on gender, innovation system, and agriculture public expenditure review. So of course, Patricia will also come in from the gender perspective. And I think now we can see the screen of Mr. Mamadou. And can you speak out, Mamadou, that if we can hear you, we can start with your presentation now.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Am I audible?
Yes, Mamadou, we can hear you now. Great. Welcome, Mamadou, Patricia, Jonas, Malik, and we will have the floor for you, Mamadou, and then later we'll have our distinguished three panelists coming after presentation.
Okay,
Mamadou.
thank you very much. Welcome everybody and the panelists. CG, as you said, the Gambia Agriculture and Food Security Project is a 5-year project funded by Global GAFSP and being supervised by the African Development Bank. Basically, my presentation will focus on climate crisis within the context of the Gambia, that's for the project, a series of malnutrition, the project interventions, and the outcomes so far. Okay, climate crisis within the context of this country before the project is decline in mean annual total rainfall was observed by 30% from 1950 to 2000. There have been steady reduction in the length of the rainy season, that's our growing period. Observe a reduction in the quantity of rains, especially in the month of August, resulting to increased frequency of extreme rainfall events, leading to numerous flooding and widespread runoff, which was induced by erosion, sea level rise, low soil fertility, translating to low productivity of traditional crops and livestock species, loss of nutritional composition and value of our major food crops, and change in biomass with disappearance of animal feed that is suitable for our extensive livestock rearing. In terms of nutrition, in the pre-project, you have prevalence of food insecurity, which is 13%, with 23.9% for rural households. And 19,500 people were considered in the emergency phase of food insecurity. Stunting rate among children under 5, 15.7%, wasting rate 5.8%, and the number of hungry months was considered to be 3 months of the year. Basically, the project sorry, let me just exit. Okay. Basically, the project aims to increase food and nutrition security as well as income of vulnerable households. And how do we intend to get this? First, to structure the food demand side with school feeding to match with the food supply side with local production by our smallholder farmers. Improve the income of smallholder farmers through productivity and promote social protection and food safety net programs to reduce food and nutrition insecurity, especially for underprivileged populations. So far, the interventions of the project, we have installed 26 water reticulation systems that are solar powered in the context of climate change, because we are as much as possible encouraging climate smart agriculture, discouraging the use of fossil fuels. We have also covered 5,920 women who benefited from subsidy in terms of climate smart inputs. This mostly is targeting the products for the school feeding program. The project also focused on capacity building, in which 5,000 women receive technical support through climate resilient farmer field school systems. This is to assist farmers to produce within the acceptable standards of quality and safety for the homegrown school feeding program. We've also reached about 1,278 smallholder farmers, which is 44% are women, supported with climate smart certified seed for cereals, that's rice, biofortified crops such as maize and cowpea, together with groundnut. These are both income crops and also nutritious crops that gets to the school for the school feeding program. We also, subsidize farmers, women farmers, about 1,023 of them for poultry, to produce poultry within the acceptable standards. So you can see some of the pictures. This is a maize farmer who is, of course, also not only a farmer, but an aggregator that will be aggregating from the smallholder farmers and selling to schools. These are processed products from the poultry interventions that are schools. This is also products from the gardens, which are the basis in which we provide the nutritious foods to the schools. The linkages, because when farmers produce, how do we get to the schools? Our intervention is climate smart, targeting income of farmers, but at the same time ensuring that it impacts on nutrition of households through the school children. We support master farmers and aggregators for the homegrown school feeding program. This is to ensure timely availability of fresh and nutritious school meals. As you can see in this transport, this is just a few days ago, where an aggregator is providing rice, supplying rice to the schools through the intervention of the project and with the support of WFP. In the second picture, you can see a woman. This is a vegetable producer who is also a key aggregator that produces the needed vegetables, which are the fresh foods for school feeding. Apart from that, also beyond that, women are also making incomes out of this. Then in that picture, you can see we also train our mothers clubs, cooks, etc., to process the products that are coming from the project in terms of maintaining quality and standards for school use. What does these linkages turn to? So far, 1,147 school children, 56 of them girls, are fed with nutritious daily meals from the produce of smallholder farmers. We've got about, in terms of maintaining safety, quality, and standard in the schools for the nutritious food, about 600 women, which consist of cooks, school food management committees, read through SBCC, to ensure that foods that are given to children remain nutritious. They also remain fresh and they are prepared within acceptable standards. To improve nutrition, as we talked about the malnutrition and the wasting, vitamin A deficiency and worm infestation are key among children. We have also invested in that to ensure that at least 22,000 school-going children receive vitamin A supplementation and deworming tablets to combat VAD and worm infestation. What have been the expected impacts on this? First is there's increased food and nutrition security for vulnerable households. There are better educational attainments for schools-going children, and smallholder farmers are adapting climate-resilient farming practices. So far, the preliminary impact on school children during the last impact assessment is that there is lower food insecurity experience score for schools with school meals and is lower for girls than boys. There is higher food consumption score for schools with school meals, and within the school meals, it is higher for girls than boys. There's, of course, higher household dietary diversity scores for schools with school meals, and is higher for girls than boys. This so far has resulted to lower dropout rates for schools with school meals, 7% as compared to schools without school meals, where the dropout rate is at 14%. It have also resulted to improve cognitive skills for schools with school meals. Finally, it has increased income of farming households through the institutional market created by the homegrown school feeding program of the project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mamadou. So, and yeah, it is really like a very exciting project, really with, you know, the multiple interventions that are happening on the ground to tackle the different challenges together. And we know this project actually is still in a relatively young age, that I think it's just started like for 2 years. And we also, you know, would be excited to see, you know, the additional financing that from the GAFSP grants that were allocated this year will be really started soon to scale up a lot of the great initiatives. You know, maybe also just to take the advantage to ask you maybe a quick question, is that what would be the sort of some of the success or challenges that, you know, addressing this interlinkages of these three aspects on climate, nutrition, the gender in your project from the implementation you have seen? Is there any like a practical lessons you would like to share with our audience?
Well, yes, I mean, key challenges. One is women's access to land is still, especially productive land. They form majority of the producers here, the smallholder producers. But access to productive land for women, you know, to push this thematic area forward is a challenge. It's a policy issue. We've been talking to policymakers, been talking to government, and there are other advocacies to ensure that deliberate, targeted actions are done to ensure that women access productive land. The other challenge, obviously, is the linkages. We are doing well to ensure that there are linkages, but I mean the private sector. The private sector base is still too small and is concentrated mostly in the urban area. So, I mean, we still need to do much work to convince them that the opportunities provided by the homegrown school feeding program there are opportunities that the private sector should take up and invest in it, because without a better role for the private sector, sustainability might be a challenge at the end of the day. Whatever the public sector does is to support and provide the environment, but the linkages, as time goes on, must be sustained by the private sector, especially towards the end of the project. These are challenges that we have observed, and we're working towards, you know, integrating, overcoming these challenges within project implementation, so that by exit, some of these anticipated challenges or current challenges would be overcome. The other thing is of course, is climate generally. You know, this year we are lucky, the rains were good. So all the farmers that we've provided with inputs are calling, they're sending messages, they're sending videos of their produce, because the rains were good, very well. So, I mean, we will do as much as we can to ensure that the inputs we give are climate smart enough. But sometimes if the rains are so much terrible, it becomes a problem. Even encouraging farmers becomes an issue. But as you say, that the core of the project is to ensure that whatever we do is within the climate, within climate resilient activities. We're working hard with farmers to adapt as much as possible climate resilient practices for their own benefit and for the benefit of the country. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Mamadou, so for your like really comprehensive answers. And then yeah, excited, like there's a lot of great innovative activities happening, and also still at early stage. There's a lot more could be done for this project, of course, also with additional financing. So now let's move to the second part, and let's come to the discussion with our three distinguished panelists. First of all, Mr. Malik, just to briefly introduce you again. He is a Deputy Country Director of World Food Program in Gambia. And, like WFP, as I mentioned earlier, has really been an important partner for this project. Would you please share with us a little bit more about, what is how WFP helped the project, through the partnership to achieve some of this multi-linked objectives, and especially how, it's leveraged the nutrition expertise from WFP. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and thank you to Mamadou for the presentation. So I'm going to talk about a little bit WF partnership in this project. So we play a critical governance and strategic role in the project, and our involvement ensure that adherence to international standards and policies, particularly focusing on the goal to zero hunger. And we contribute to this project by providing technical assistance and by implementing activities across different components of the project. In the component one, for example, our activities include developing linkage between SMEs, smallholder farmers, and schools, training and supporting value chain factors, and as well in designing school infrastructure. In the component two, we lead activities that focus on preventing and controlling micronutrient deficient malnutrition. And this includes, supporting the production of local iodized salt, vitamin A supplement provision to school children, deworming and fortification of food with micronutrient. We are also involved in the gender-sensitive training for school communities, establishing and strengthening as well food management committees, mothers clubs, and training these clubs members in various in different areas. So we are in charge of the provision of nutritious school meals, including fortified commodities and the training of storekeepers and cooks on safe storage and food preparation. So in terms of expertise, nutrition expertise, WFP expertise in food security and nutrition has been a very critical component in shaping and executing the project nutrition-related activities. So our expertise is really evident in the contribution to the school feeding program, which involve supplying nutritious food to school children, providing vitamin A supplement, and as well deworming tablet to thousands of children, and initiating as well behavioral change activities at community level with mothers clubs on nutrition, wash, reproductive health. We have been working closely with the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education, and we show our expertise as well in the planning and the designing of nutritious school meal, food basket, and menu. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Malik India, for your very concise and comprehensive answer to this question. So yeah, it's great to know, the partnerships not only with WFP, but also working, across different the government, the ministries, like you mentioned, to really achieve this multiple objectives. So now maybe I will move to Patricia. Patricia, as our gender lead of the World Bank. So what do you see, this climate, nutrition, and the gender nexus issue in the agri-food system that, you see are relevant in the Gambia? And yeah, like how do you, what's your insights, from listening to the story of the Gambia project, especially, on this nexus with gender and the climate? Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Gigi. Just want to precise, I'm not the gender lead of the World Bank, just of the Food and Agriculture GP. So it was, I really loved the presentation because it really hit on a couple of points. And we know women and women farmers and producers are really at the sort of the nexus of climate shocks. And in part because of systemic issues. You know, they're more affected in general because their employment tends to be informal than men's, leaving them very little safety net supports. They're frequently left out of financial services and financial systems, so they're less able to cope with shocks and risks. They're often bypassed by information and training sources because they're not the heads of households, because some of the events do not fit with schedules or ability to travel. And often, and a big point, is unpaid commitments to family and community and care burdens prevent them from participating as much as they could. So food and nutrition insecurity hits them harder. And at the same time, they're more likely to become food insecure because of these differential impacts. They have different crops, different capacity, knowledge, location, roles, access to information. So we know that they're more impacted by climate shocks and stresses due to these disadvantages in the system. And we have been able to look at a whole bunch of approaches that work and that tackle some of these systemic disadvantages and the way women suffer climatic shocks to agricultural food production more. And two of these came up in the presentation, and one is in the context of the school feeding program. And one of the big things that we kind of uncovered, especially during COVID-19 and the food crisis that sort of followed that, was the really great use of women's networks and groups, and how investing in women's participation in whether it's farmer producer organizations, cooperatives, or especially in India, these self-help groups, this resilience and this community, this women in groups, was one of the items that withstood shocks and was able to be used in times of food insecurity. So also, this couples with evidence on what works long term, and with a lot of studies have shown that, not a lot, but more and more, that it is in fact participation and membership of a working group that is most likely to contribute to women's economic empowerment going forward. So when I see in programs, and when we really see an investment in organizing women and bringing them together, which not only acts as immediate act on their income and resource, but on other aspects such as decision making in the community, such as reliance, such as networks, such as sharing, this is a really good entry point. So I'm happy to see that. The other critical aspect, and I also really enjoyed seeing this, is women as not just sufferers of climate crisis and climate change, but as agents in tackling it. And making sure that climate smart technology and improved agricultural inputs are reached by women and used by women is critical. There's a lot of evidence that shows that women are involved in climate change responses and are formally recognized in climate policies. You ensure better outcomes. So seeing this in the project and the way, the recognition that women may not be accessing climate smart technologies and instruments in the same way as men goes a long way to have better outcomes for climate smart practices in the project. So. Thanks.
Thanks.
Momo, do you have something to comment on this?
No, I just say thanks. I think the message well received.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thanks a lot, Patricia, to sharing your insights, especially, how I think it's not only about the Gambia projects, it's also something, can be really helpful for our other projects on the ground tackling similar food nutrition and security issues, but needs to really address the gender gap. And then this is like the entry points, like what you mentioned about, like the aspects really beyond the income. It's like, women's participation, membership. Okay, now let me come to Jonas. Jonas, welcome you as well. So, you are the, really the climate experts, And we are like talking about the webinar series is COP28, and we would like like hear from you, as you've been very involved in the climate agenda globally and also with the World Bank. So we'd like to, and also as you know, GAFSP is a program that's really working with a big network of platform, working with different donors, but also working different supervising entity, different MDBs. So could you kindly, share with us your views on how, the MDBs and then, internet organizations that can really facilitate the knowledge exchange and also the role of really facilitate investment through partnership between countries on addressing this nexus issue?
Thank you very much for the question and for inviting me to this panel. It was very exciting to hear from the ground, and going back to the global perspective and how the MDBs and partners they can facilitate specifically on the nexus of, as you mentioned, climate change, but also gender and nutrition. So, I mean, of course, there are a number of ways, and starting with the most conventional one, which is the financing of operations, and this is a great example of a project that partners they came together to share expertise to develop and implement an operation. So we do that, of course, through concessional loans. We do that through grants, with work with the private sector, and through other types of instruments, such as, for example, the payments of results, development policy loans, and technical assistance. So these are the more kind of traditional ways of how MDBs and other financing entities they channel funding for the purposes of investment on this nexus. But at the same time, there are a number of ways that I think MDBs and partners they can create innovation. And from the MDB perspective, and in this case, the example of the World Bank, we have been participating in the realm of climate change in a number of spaces, such as, for example, working on emission reductions crediting, results-based climate finance, carbon finance, auctions, payment for ecosystem services, and risk and financing, risk-sharing financing options, as well as issuing green bonds, which is it's a new area of engagement. So these are some of the areas where we can, I think there is a lot of space to bring innovation. At the same time, most recently at the World Bank, we have been working together with several CGIAR centers to really bridge the gap between research, science and research, and what's happening on the ground. So we work with the ICRA project in 3 regions in sub-Saharan Africa and 6 focus countries to really accelerate the scaling up of climate smart agriculture. And we will have soon a big announcement, hopefully, in the upcoming COP on that as well. Maybe a third area that I see a lot of us and the MDBs and the bank itself working is in the area of country analytics. And I think this is fundamental in terms of strategizing the investments and informing investments in the field. In the realm of the climate space, at the bank, we have recently introduced a new core analytics, and this is the first time after several decades. And these are called country climate and development reports. So they really, through this analysis, teams in the bank together with our client countries, they tackle the nexus of climate and more traditional development. So this is the big innovation, and we hope that those analytics will inform the investments of the bank and partners for the years to come. But coming more closer to the sector and the agriculture and food sector in specific, the bank has, as you may know, we have historically developed the climate smart agriculture profiles and a lot of climate smart investment plans, and now we're moving towards developing food systems, what we will call food system climate action plans. And the reason for doing that is really to approach the CSA investments from a value chain perspective, because we see that there are many risks across the value chain, but also many entry points and opportunities to tackle climate change, both from an adaptation and mitigation angle throughout the value chain. So these are some of the analytics that they're happening in the space, and of course other MDBs and partners, they also develop several of those. At the same time, in the bank, most recently we have been working on a flagship report, which is focusing exactly on the climate change mitigation for agriculture and food. We see that there is a big a gap when it comes to climate finance, climate funding for agriculture and food. And at the same time, as we know, the sector is contributing to almost a third of the total GHG emissions. So there is a big opportunity here to both contribute to solve the climate change problem by reducing GHG emissions, but also to increase at the same time the share of the climate finance and eventually the agricultural development finance that goes to the sector. Finally, an area that many of us were working on, and I think it's really important because it really helps to accelerate some of those investments, is through our support to create enablers and catalysts in this ecosystem. For example, many of us in the bank, we are working on developing or helping to develop MRV systems, which is a prerequisite to accelerate the climate change mitigation action in agriculture and food. Many of us, we work in the area of carbon markets. There are specific initiatives and programs that are happening in the space, such as, for example, the bank is leading the global methane reduction platform for development these days, and many of those. And maybe finally, a last point that's more specific to the MDBs. But the MDBs, they have also created a space that they come together to develop and set global standards when it comes to how we develop and we implement our investment operations. And some good examples of this collaboration has to do with the way that we measure our climate finance. And most recently, developing methodologies to ensure that the investments from MDBs and partners, they're aligned with the Paris Agreement. So, and this is very important as well, at least in my opinion, because by creating these global standards, you really increase the quality, but also the incentives for across the world between different partners to really come up with good quality projects at scale. Thank you so much, and over to the team for any more questions or reflections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Younes, Patricia, and Malik. So now I'm just maybe turn to the audience. Please feel free to ask any questions. You can type in the chat, or you can, turn your camera, unmute yourself. Feel free to come in for any questions you may have. Well, we're waiting for questions, Okay, we have one question. Okay, so Reed Cooper, do you want to just ask your question directly? I see you typed your question. If you're able to,
yeah, sure. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was just a bit curious and interested to see that during the presentation there were some comparisons between the target group and a control group, and I thought that was great. And so I just want to know if the control group was, if they were monitoring the control group throughout the project, or rather the control groups, because I think there were a few indicators that were used. And and to understand if they were monitored throughout the implementation of the project, and also to understand a little bit more about the design of the impact assessment. So you know, was this designed at the beginning of the project? You know, sort of how they approach that. So hope that's clear.
Thanks. Yeah, as the of course, you know, we'll go through the data, and I see Malik. I guess you would be able to answer this question. Please.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for the question. Very pertinent question. So just to give some background, this impact assessment was done with the DIAM, the World Bank DIAM. So they come up with a group of, you know, a control group of schools within the same, you know, location, sharing, you know, the same indicators in terms of food security and nutrition as well, and vulnerabilities, and another group of schools that receive, you know, the support. And in almost more than 1 year, have been collecting, you know, high frequency data in the schools, the you know, the number of children and the meals and, you know, the frequentation of the schools. The frequentation for the children. So that's how the design was done. So and come up with some comparison between schools, you know, the control group and the schools that receive, you know, the support, and also within the, you know, within the schools that receiving, like comparing between men, boys and girls, and doing the same with the schools that are not receiving support. So that's how the design was done. So now we are we have been publishing. We have just published the preliminary finding, but now the next step is really to look at, you know, some additional data that we are going to continue to collect this year with regard to the school feeding. I hope that this clarified. We'll be very happy as well to share, you know, more light. We have a document that can be shared maybe later on if needed. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see, and thanks so much for the response. I think it's great that, you know, DIAM was able to contribute to the or did the evaluation, and I guess that's maybe part of the reason why it's as comprehensive and with the control group and everything. Can I ask a further question, which is, did the project pay for the impact assessment, or was that something that was sort of in collaboration with the bank? Thanks.
So unfortunately, the project did not pay for this study. So it was a collaboration with the bank, between the World Food Program and the bank. So you know, to make it happen. So, yes. That's
great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and also good to know, you know, is not only our African Bank World Food Program, but also have World Bank play a partnership role in this project as a new discovery for us as well. Great to learn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Yeah. So now I have another hand, Rohan. Feel free to come in.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the very good presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. My question is, I'll make it very simple. How are you going to, in regards to sustainability, how are we going to sustain this program? As you know, I work in Africa. I came from South Asia. So there's a lot of things I see when I go on supervision mission, a lot of these previous projects, which I talk to different stakeholders and some of the government officials. The sustainability issue is a big issue. How would you introduce something of this kind of nature into the budgetary process of the governments, so this continues on and it doesn't stop right after the project finishes or any activity finishes? Because I find this very sad. And I was wondering if this can be sort of given prominence, as well as the people in the ministry as well be brought into this picture and given some sort of, not training, but some sort of awareness, you know, because this is a sort of sustainability becomes, it's a very, how shall I put it, it's a very sort of it brings in different players to keep it sustainable. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Rohan,
Malik.
So I can complement. So if you have any, maybe I can give the perspective of the school. Yes, the perspective of the school feeding. So for the school feeding part, particularly, you know, we have been pushing for the homegrown school feeding, meaning that the food that we are having at school, you know, is coming from the local production, and the government from the Ministry of Agriculture are pushing a lot, you know, to boost the local production, and the school side as well. for WFP, we have a handover strategy with the government, Ministry of Education, to take over, the school feeding program. The government have been increasing, the investment income of school feeding, in the last 3 years. Every year increasing little by little, taking over some schools. As of now, 2 regions are fully funded by the government, and with other region is still with the World Food Program. So the idea is to really work on handing over the whole program to the government, and they have been doing more and more. The production side, I think Mamoudou Sow can give some light on that, because at the end of the day, the school feeding should be looked at as a market, potential market for the production. That's quite important, and that's what we are pushing for. So Mamoudou.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you do
thanks.
any type of beneficiary feedback? Instead of doing a formal like a dime doing sort of a feedback thing, but also it'd be good to do something on a regular basis, like every 6 months, to find out, talk to just going out there and talking to beneficiaries rather than picking out the beneficiaries. Somebody would say, oh, go to this particular school, go to the particular school, but just go to a school and just find out what is happening here, what has the program done, how can you do better, etc., because I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. This is part of the process monitoring for WFP. That's what we are doing. And the impact evaluation is really different to the process monitoring, where we are making sure that if schools are receiving, the transfer, if everything is taking place as it should be. So that's what I want to add. So Mamoudou, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Malik. Is as part of the sustainability from the production side, the project we are just coordinating, but it's been implemented, especially at the level of production, is being implemented by the structures of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture, our National Agricultural Research Institute, our National Seed Secretariat. These are the key implementers, implementing partners as far as the project is concerned, together with the farmers. I think for us, what we are doing as a project is to showcase this as the way forward for feeding our children, and also the way forward for a market for our smallholder producers. And we are creating the linkages we are working to create. We are not only waiting or depending on private sector actors that have money no, we are targeting farmers that are beyond what we call our master farmers, and using them as aggregators, and supporting them to be able to, they are a bit above the smallholder farmers, to see this as an opportunity, an institutional market as an opportunity, to be collecting and buying and aggregating from the smallholder farmers and selling it to the schools. At the moment you get the income part, properly delineated and people are making money out of it, we are sure that it's going to be sustainable, because it is linked to the livelihoods and income of key people within the school clusters. That's what we are pushing, and government is definitely buying into this. Communities are also buying into it. We are with the groundnut. We know, there is our cash crop. So there's not problems of market as far as, but things like cowpea, maize, they were just being grown for subsistence. With the introduction of this concept and the project, farmers are growing it and they're making income out of it, and they are seeing the benefits. It's one way of ensuring that at the production level, this is sustained. As Malik said, at the level of the homegrown school feeding program, he has explained, and I think we are working very much to synergize these linkages as much as possible, and we are also advocating to the policymakers, to understand that we cannot continue to depend on the handouts to feed our children. We need to improve on production to ensure that the school feeding is a great opportunity for our children to eat food that is grown in the Gambia, but also for our farmers, especially the smallholder rice farmers, which are critical. Rice is our staple food. If they improve, if they are getting income from this, it's a stepping stone for them to think of producing more with support, even far beyond the schools that they are providing for. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mamadou and Malik, for answering this question from different perspectives of how to really to sustain the benefits. And as mentioned, this is still in the early stage of the project. It's always great to think about sustainability from the early stage, and glad to know you're doing it already. So we have 3 minutes left. Just wonder if anyone else has a question, please feel free to take advantage of our, our panelist, our presenter, Danny. Okay, thanks, Jason, for connecting. Tamsil, please come in. I see your hands up. Oh, Tamsil, I cannot hear you yet, so please unmute yourself and feel free to ask your question.
Yes, sorry for that. I'm saying thank you very much, both Mamadou and the others who have contributed to the discussion. I just want to talk about it a little bit about the sustainability. What government is doing on this paradigm also is making sure that homegrown school feeding align with the national development aspirations of the country. In that sense, it is encouraging multi-sectoral involvement in the delivery of the program, so that from the Ministry of Education to Health, Social Protection, they all come on board and contribute their quota. And also is encouraging community involvement. That's why the program is totally decentralized, and is implemented at the community level. We all know the importance of the community as an agency, individual agency within a community, in order to value their input and seek to create the positive and lasting incomes that we are looking for. The community engagement is a fundamental aspect of the sustainable practices that the program is taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamsil. I guess you're working, with the project, and thank you for contributing the additional points. Okay, so is there any additional question coming? Okay. Okay. I see. Okay, great. So thank you everyone for your time, for this 1 hour, and then we have really heard the story, like the highlights from the Gambia project. And as mentioned, this project still in the early stage, and we would really love to learn more. And also thank you also, from our panelists, Patricia, Iones, Malik, sharing your expertise, your insights from the climate, nutrition and gender aspects. It's really an area, interconnected through the agri-food system that really hope that we can work together and then to address those integrated challenges and issues that we see in our GAFSP project, but also beyond in the development sector for the agri-food projects. So I think afterwards, we will the presentation will be shared as mentioned by my colleague. But if any further questions, you can also feel free to reach out to the coordination unit, or then we can we're happy to to continue this conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you, CV.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.